Hi there, Rachel here. I am the founder and creator of LINKtivityLearning.com and creator of LINKtivity Interactive Learning Guides. In this video, I want to show you 10 ways that you can use LINKtivity Interactive Learning Guides with your students. By now, thousands of teachers and even more students are using LINKtivities in their classroom, and that makes me super excited. But what I've learned in working with and talking with teachers who are using LINKtivities in their classroom is that there is no one right way to use LINKtivities in your classroom. There are so many different topics and skills of LINKtivities that LINKtivities cover that gives you endless possibilities of what LINKtivity learning might look like in your classroom. And it may vary from LINKtivity to LINKtivity depending on the skill or topic that you're covering. I've designed LINKtivities to meet the needs of your unique individual students in your classroom. And in this video, I want to cover 10 ways that you can do that and how LINKtivities can be fresh and new and exciting each time you use a LINKtivity with your students. So let's get started. The first way is, of course, the individual use. This was my vision and initial thought of how LINKtivities would be used. However, I've learned along the way that there are so many other ways. But I want to start with this one because it's the most obvious. By working on individual devices, students can work at their own pace. They can use or not use the audio support and go back and review. And they're in control, which is one thing that makes LINKtivities exciting and unique for students. They're put in the driver's seat. They can take control of their learning. So here are some of the benefits of individual use with your students. First, of course, they can work at their own pace. We know studies have been done that show that when students are in control and they work at their own pace, they're more motivated, they're more excited to learn, and they just learn and take in the information better because they're not being pushed through the content. Another benefit is that teachers are free to assist and monitor individuals because the students are working on their own. So then you're allowed to go around the room, help a student who might be struggling, make sure that everybody is on task, and you're not having to work with an entire group at the same time to keep them that way. You can help out individual students. A third benefit is that students are in control of their learning, which then, of course, is going to increase their motivation. I've already mentioned this. Studies have been done that when students are in control, when they're clicking around the LINKtivity, when they're able to choose the order that they want to go into and videos that they want to watch, they're going to be motivated to continue to move on. And a final benefit is that students can be assigned different LINKtivities according to their individual needs. If students are working on individual devices, one student might need to be working on this skill, another student might need to be working on that skill. And with LINKtivities, that's possible because you can assign each student their individual LINKtivity for what they need to be working on. So I love using LINKtivities for individual use. And I think it's a great way to get started with LINKtivities in your classroom and use them with your students. Here are a few things that you want to keep in mind when using LINKtivities individually with your students. The first thing, of course, is you're going to need to make sure that you have individual devices for each student. So if you don't already have a class set in your classroom that's assigned to your classroom and always there, make sure that you, of course, make arrangements for your students to either go to a computer lab or to have a computer cart or Chromebook cart brought to your classroom whenever you're going to be using LINKtivities. You'll also want to check with your school's YouTube restrictions. Many of the LINKtivities have YouTube videos embedded right there, so they're not actually going to the YouTube site. The videos are embedded in the LINKtivities, but if your school does block YouTube, it will not play that video. So you want to check with them. Inside each teacher guide with the LINKtivities, there is the actual link for the video itself. So many schools will actually whitelist, meaning allow individual videos. They can do that without allowing the entire access to the YouTube site, but they can whitelist individual videos. So that's a great option if your school does block YouTube for your students. Another thing to keep in mind is that you're going to need to familiarize your students with how to navigate the LINKtivity if this is their first time, of course. Once they've used it once or twice, every LINKtivity follows the same flow, has the same navigation buttons, and students are going to get really good at using LINKtivities. And so all you'll need to do eventually is give them the link and send them on their way. But if you're using it with them for the first couple times, you want to have some whole group discussion where you do walk them through a LINKtivity and just help them navigate it. And then of course, you're going to want to communicate routines and procedures. This is true for anything in your classroom, but especially with using classroom technology, there are some additional routines and procedures that you want to cover with your students. So make sure you go over those before you get your students and send them loose with a LINKtivity in hand. The second way that you can use LINKtivities with your students is through whole class instruction. So this is the opposite. You have them in the first example, you use them individually. In this one, you're actually going to work as a whole class. So sometimes you just don't have access to individual devices. That was the case for me. So we would often work as a whole class when using digital devices, and that's okay. I promise LINKtivities can be just as powerful when working with a whole class. And you know what? Sometimes you would rather just work together as a class. In fact, there are many cases when it actually does make sense to work as a whole class. And so let's talk about that now. Some of the benefits of whole class instruction with LINKtivities is that, like I mentioned before, it helps to get students acquainted. So if you're using LINKtivities for the first time with your students, whole class is perfect. It makes perfect sense. You can work through it with them, help them know how to navigate it, teach them how to use the navigation buttons on the LINKtivity, and so on. So it's a great way to get them acquainted and help them to use it together as a whole class. The second benefit is that teachers can use LINKtivities to introduce a topic. LINKtivities don't have to be something that students explore on their own. Sometimes it's a great discussion starter for you as a whole class. You can watch the videos together, have great discussion and conversation around those videos. And if you're, again, just starting a topic or a skill for the first time, sometimes it makes sense to work together as a whole group. Make sure that you're all on the same page before you send them off on their own. And then the third benefit of a whole class is that it allows you to guide the discussion. Small group discussions are sometimes great. Individual exploration is great, but sometimes you just need to kind of be a little bit more of a guided instruction and guided discussion. And working together as a whole group with your LINKtivities allows you to do that. Here's a couple things that you'll want to keep in mind. You'll need a place, of course, where all students will be able to easily see the LINKtivity. So whether that's gathered on a carpet area around your smartboard, whatever it is, you want to make sure that students can obviously see the LINKtivity. Another thing to keep in mind, like I mentioned with the individual use, is that if your school does block YouTube, perhaps you have a device that does allow YouTube. Maybe your teacher laptop allows LINKtivity. So this is another great benefit, but it's also something to keep in mind. If you have access to a digital device that does allow YouTube, that would be the one that you would want to use with your whole class. And you'll also want to make sure that you ensure student participation. So maybe that means inviting students up to help you navigate through and click on the navigation buttons, or a lively discussion. Make sure that you include all of the students so that you are actively engaging each student in your classroom. And one way to do that is to keep them engaged with that printable or digital activity that comes with each LINKtivity. So if you are working on one device together, maybe if you do have access to individual devices, maybe they can be doing the digital activity on their own at their seat or on the gathering area. And if that's not an option, you can do the printable version of the student activity and have them work with you on the carpet or at their seats wherever they're viewing the LINKtivity. They can be working on their activity as well. The next way to use LINKtivities is more of a middle of the road option, and it's the small group use. So maybe you don't want them to work individually just yet or for a particular topic, and maybe you don't want to work as a whole class. Small group is your middle of the road option. LINKtivities are ideal for both student-led small groups as well as teacher-led small groups. And they work best with about 3 to 5 students because that's a great amount of students that can easily gather around a single device and work through the LINKtivity together. Here are some benefits to your small group use of LINKtivities. This allows you, by working in a small group, it allows you to use LINKtivities regularly in your classroom, even if you are not a one-to-one technology classroom. Even if you don't have an entire class set of laptops or iPads or Chromebooks, you can still use LINKtivities on a regular basis if you can get access to 5 or 6 and have those in your classroom. Another benefit is that Different groups can be assigned different LINKtivities depending on their needs. If you're working in a small group, say guided reading group, and they're working on a particular skill for fiction reading, and you have another guided reading group that is working on, say, a reading strategy like making connections or visualizing, you can use two different LINKtivities, one with one group and one with the other. And then maybe you even put that same LINKtivity or put a LINKtivity on that skill in a center of some sort. So it's great to help you provide different needs to different students or provide different instruction for different groups of students. And a third benefit is that students enjoy working together and collaborating. LINKtivities on their own are super fun, they're engaging, but when you add in the mix of other students, it just, bumps up that motivation even more. So here are a few things to keep in mind. One is make sure you have prepared an area in your classroom, and I would suggest if you have a kidney-shaped table, that is ideal, where students can easily gather around a single device. And of course, you can have them gather around on a carpet area where they can kind of put it in the center and then gather it around. But make sure you have an area in your classroom that allows for that. And then, of course, you're going to need to set some expectations for student-led groups. You'll need to go over what exactly each participant in the group is to be doing. Does one person go and get the laptop or their Chromebook? Does another person, are they in charge of navigating through it and while the other ones watch? Are they taking turns? Just whatever it is that you decide, whatever works best with your students, make sure that you set the expectations for that. The fourth way to use LINKtivities is at home. We know very well after 2020 that at-home learning is a real thing, and it's going to be a part of our learning for the foreseeable future. So it's easy to provide students with a link for a LINKtivity to access at home. So that's perfect for distant learning if that's where you're at, or perhaps we return to it at some point. But it's also just great extra practice for at-home reinforcement. You teach something in class, send a LINKtivity home for extra practice. Here are some benefits. You can reinforce skills learned in the classroom in a fun, engaging way, and it doesn't feel like homework. Students love LINKtivities. They'll think of it like a video game that they're playing at home. It just happens to be that they're learning along the way. The second benefit is that families can see what students are working on. The LINKtivities are kind of a foolproof method for teaching new content. And so even if your students don't have parents that are teachers, they can still be a part of their learning because the LINKtivities are for everyone. And another benefit is that students can be engaged in new content even if you're teaching virtually. So if you are using LINKtivities for a distance learning option, students are still easily engaged. They're not just staring at you on a screen learning new content, but they're actually engaging, they're clicking, they're moving, they're watching, they're hearing, everything. They can still be fully engaged even if they're learning from home. Here are a few things to keep in mind. Your students will need internet access at home. So that might be something you need to check ahead of time before you start sending LINKtivities home. You also might want to consider how you will share the LINKtivity link with your students for at-home learning. So this can be easily done with a QR code. Maybe you share it inside your learning platform. So just consider how you will be sharing that link. You want to make it easy for students and families. And then the last thing to keep in mind is what will the expectation be for showing completed work? If you are doing learning in the classroom and then sending a LINKtivity home, maybe you're having students bring back the flip book or the recording sheet. Maybe they have to submit it. If you're using the digital version, they submit it on your learning platform. Just make sure that you share with your students what that expectation is going to be so that there's a little bit of accountability for what they're doing at home with the LINKtivity. The fifth way to use LINKtivities in your classroom is morning work. Once students know how to use and navigate a LINKtivity, they make great morning activities as students arrive in the classroom, and it requires such little prep from you. So here are some of the benefits. You can reinforce skills that you learned in previous lessons. So it's a great follow-up to maybe something that you taught yesterday or the day before. Like I mentioned, little to no prep. Once you teach students the expectations that once they arrive in the morning, they go grab their laptop, they go grab their Chromebook, they come back to their seats, they begin working, they're ready to go. So it's very little prep for you. And finally, you can differentiate with LINKtivities. Students can be working on a different skill. Each student can have their own LINKtivity that they go and access. It can be tailored to students' individual needs. The sixth way to use LINKtivities is substitute plans. If you're feeling sick, if you need a personal day, if you're attending a conference and you're going to be away for a day or two, LINKtivities seamlessly take your place. So here are some benefits. Students can easily learn new content even without you. LINKtivities are so independent and have so much information packed in it and include videos and audio that they can take your place. They can still learn new content. You don't always have to just give review information to your students when you're going to be out and give review information to your substitute. LINKtivities can still teach new content. Here's another benefit. LINKtivities are simple enough that a substitute doesn't need any prior knowledge to use in your own classroom. Because it's just a link, and especially if your students have used them in the past, it's easy for them to just open the link and get started. A substitute doesn't need to have to log into anything. They don't have to know a specific learning platform. They just need the link and they're good to go. And more importantly, students are more likely to stay engaged rather than using pen and paper activities. They're going to be excited that they're using a LINKtivity, and they'll give your substitute less hassle because they'll be engaged. So here are a few things to keep in mind. This option of using LINKtivities with a substitute does work best if your students are familiar with LINKtivities prior to using with a sub. I wouldn't recommend springing this on your students for the first time with a sub. Another thing to keep in mind is to take advantage of using QR codes to share the LINKtivities, so substitutes don't need to log in to your LINKtivity Learning website. If you have the QR codes ready to go, the substitute can just hand out the QR codes and they're good to go. And also keep in mind that it would be helpful to give substitutes a list of routines and procedures for using LINKtivities. So this is just something that you can have in your subfolder or binder, however you give information to your sub, just so that substitutes know that your students go over here to get it and they're allowed to use LINKtivities in these areas and whatnot. So just make those procedures and routines clear for your students. The seventh way to use LINKtivities is for differentiated instruction. Your students all work at different paces. They have different learning needs, so they're going to need tailored instruction, and LINKtivities make that possible. Here are some of the benefits. Each student or group of students can be assigned a LINKtivity that meets their individual needs. We've talked about this in the other options as well. It's easy to give students exactly what they need because there's so many LINKtivities to choose from. The multimedia nature of LINKtivities makes it easy to reach students with varied learning styles. Some students learn best with audio, some learn best with video, some learn best by reading. It's all available in LINKtivities, and it helps students with different learning styles to have their needs met. And finally, students who need a little extra practice with skill can work on a LINKtivity for reinforcement. So even after you've taught a skill and you're weeks past that, if you have a student who still needs practice, give them a LINKtivity. Even if they've done the LINKtivity before, they can review it, they can practice it and have more practice with that skill or strategy that they're struggling with. Here are some things to keep in mind. It'll be a whole lot easier if you prepare some QR codes ahead of time or assign the LINKtivities ahead of time in your learning platform, so that whatever you're assigning to your students, and if you have this group of students working on this LINKtivity and another group of students working on the other LINKtivity, make sure that you have the QR codes ready to go or assign them in the learning platforms ready to go so that students can get easy access. Also keep in mind that some students might work at a slower pace, so plan to be flexible in your scheduling. And finally, each LINKtivity is a different length. So if you are having different students working on different LINKtivities, some may take more time than others, and some might take less time to complete. So you might want to plan some fast finisher activities if you're using different LINKtivities with different students. The eighth way to use LINKtivities is for spiral instruction. You can easily review concepts learned in prior lessons with a LINKtivity. And here are some of the benefits. You can keep skills and strategies fresh and relevant by regularly bringing them back to the surface. So even, again, like I mentioned in the last one, even if they've done that LINKtivity before, they will do it again and they'll get something new and fresh out of it, and it'll bring it to the surface. And you can revisit challenging skills later on so that students get extra practice and solidify their understanding before that learning is lost. Here are some things you'll want to keep in mind. Create a schedule for spiral review. So after you've reviewed a skill, put something on your calendar that reminds you to bring that LINKtivity back out 3 months, 1 month, however soon, how often you want to review that skill. Put it on your calendar so you don't forget to do it. And keep track of which skills you reviewed and when, so that you know you've already covered that skill and then you're going to choose a different one. The 9th way to use LINKtivities is for fast finisher activities. We all have those students who complete work early and need something to do, so LINKtivities save the day. So some of the benefits are that LINKtivities are low prep activities that you can have ready at a moment's notice. And all you need is a digital device and you're ready to go. The LINKtivities do come with that recording sheet or that flip book, but you don't need to use it. You can just have them do the LINKtivity, and if that's the case, all you need is the digital device. And because there are so many LINKtivities to choose from, there's always a new option to keep things fresh for your fast finishers. So here are some things to keep in mind. You will likely want to pre-select a few LINKtivities that students can choose from. Maybe you have somewhere in your classroom with the QR codes posted that they can just go ahead and scan that QR code and they're good to go and ready to go complete it. But you might want to pre-select a few relevant LINKtivities for your students. Keep fast finisher LINKtivities fresh by swapping out new ones often. So after you've had 5 or 6 available for students to choose from, swap them out, choose another 5 or 6, and allow your students to choose from those instead. You'll want to develop a system for accessing the LINKtivities available as fast finisher activities. So like I just mentioned, maybe you have a poster on your wall with 5 or 6 QR codes just right there ready to go. All they need to do is go over and scan those QR codes and they're good to go. And that brings us to our 10th and final way to use LINKtivities, and that is LINKtivity choice boards. So this is a great way to create a fun way to review previously taught concepts by creating a LINKtivity choice board. So here are some of the benefits. Students can work through a single choice board over time, maybe over a month or a few weeks, and they can use that choice board to review old concepts. You can easily curate choice boards for different content areas. So maybe you have a choice board for math, and on that math choice board is a math LINKtivity that you have already talked about the skill in class at some point. LINKtivity choice boards can be customized for students or groups of students. So if you have students who are all working on a particular skill or strategy, curate choice boards for those particular students who would benefit from those individual LINKtivities. Here are some things to keep in mind. Consider creating a choice board with QR codes. I've mentioned QR codes multiple times. They make it so easy to access the LINKtivities. And if you create a choice board with QR codes right on them, students can easily scan and access each LINKtivity. And another thing to keep in mind is that choice boards can include more than just LINKtivities. You can create a choice board on a single topic and include 1 or 2 or whatever related LINKtivities as just one of the choices. So it's a great way to provide a little variety. Maybe there's a writing activity on their choice board about a specific topic or skill, and then maybe there's also a LINKtivity. So they're getting the practice from a variety of angles. So here are my final thoughts. With all of the different ways that we've talked about for using LINKtivities, it's important to keep in mind to mix up the ways that you've used LINKtivities in your classroom. It keeps things fresh and exciting for your students. It provides students with a variety of ways to interact with the LINKtivities. Some days they might work independently. Other days they might be working with a student or a group of students. Some days they might be working with you. So keep it fresh, keep it exciting, and LINKtivities will never go stale in your classroom. So I hope you found 1 or 2 or maybe even 10 ways that you can use LINKtivities with your students. Enjoy!